Welcome to Legend Uncovered, where today we dive deep into the rivalries, grudges, and brutally honest opinions of Joe Bonamassa, the blues prodigy who wasn't afraid to burn bridges in the name of pure musicianship. Joe Bonamassa's obsession with perfection isn't just a rumor, it's a way of life. To him, a guitar isn't just an instrument, it's a sacred tool, and anyone who disrespects it earns his contempt. He once said that factory-built guitars lacked soul, that they were too perfect, too mechanical, too easy. That's the kind of man we're talking about. A man who believes every note should carry the weight of tradition, not mass production. Behind the polished suits and vintage Les Pauls lies someone who spent decades defending what he considers the true spirit of blues. And when someone in the music world stepped out of line, Joe didn't hesitate to call them out, publicly or privately. Today, we're revealing the 7 rivalries that defined Joe Bonamassa's darker side. Feuds that shocked fans, angered critics, and in some cases, shattered friendships. Stay with us till the end, because the #1 feud on this list nearly tore the blues world apart. Guitar. Number 7. Slash. Kicking off our list is a rivalry that split the guitar world in two: Joe Bonamassa versus Slash. To most fans, Slash is a rock legend, a symbol of rebellion and swagger. But to Bonamassa, he was something very different: style without substance. Sources close to Joe claim he saw Slash as a costume performer, someone who relied on image, not technique. While Bonamassa was dissecting the intricacies of vintage blues phrasing, Slash was, in Joe's eyes, strumming easy riffs and spinning around in a top hat. During the 2000s, when magazines began comparing the two, Joe reportedly grew furious. He felt insulted that players relying on flashy stage moves were being praised alongside lifelong students of the craft. One studio engineer even recalled Bonamassa muttering that any teenager could learn Slash's solos in a weekend. And when the two ended up at the same festivals, Bonamassa refused photo ops, telling organizers he didn't want to stand beside fake guitar heroes. That was Joe's way: respect the craft or don't expect his friendship. Number 6. Kirk Hammett. At number 6 comes a feud that left even metal fans speechless: Joe Bonamassa versus Metallica's Kirk Hammett. To Bonamassa, metal guitarists were cheating. He reportedly saw distortion pedals and effects as shortcuts, ways to hide sloppy technique behind walls of noise. While Joe was studying the clean, raw tones of legends like B.B. King and Robert Johnson, he believed players like Hammett were abusing technology instead of mastering their hands. The rivalry intensified when guitar magazines started featuring both artists in the same issues. Joe supposedly told friends that Hammett didn't innovate anything. He just sped up simple scales and called it a new sound. Things only worsened when Hammett began collecting vintage guitars and talking about blues influences in interviews. Joe was said to be livid. To him, buying old guitars didn't make you part of the blues family. You had to live it. Event organizers revealed that whenever both players were invited to the same exhibitions, Bonamassa would rearrange his schedule to avoid crossing paths. Pure, quiet contempt. Number 5. John Mayer. Number 5 takes us into more emotional territory: Joe Bonamassa's infamous grudge against John Mayer. To many, Mayer's transition from pop to blues was impressive. To Bonamassa, it was an insult. Sources claimed Joe saw Mayer as a tourist, a pop celebrity dipping into the blues scene for credibility. While Bonamassa had spent his life grinding through smoky clubs, Mayer, he felt, walked straight into the spotlight with help from his fame. When Mayer began performing with B.B. King and Buddy Guy, Bonamassa reportedly exploded in anger. He supposedly told friends that Mayer had no right sharing the stage with real blues legends. Things reached a breaking point when critics began hailing Mayer as the savior of modern blues. Bonamassa, according to festival insiders, was furious. He thought Mayer's smooth, romantic playing cheapened the entire genre. Backstage, tour managers confirmed that Joe would demand separate dressing areas and refuse to even greet Mayer at award shows. For him, this wasn't just ego. It was about defending the integrity of the music he loved. Number 4. Jack White. At number 4, we find a rivalry that exposed two opposite worlds colliding: Joe Bonamassa's technical perfectionism versus Jack White's raw minimalism. While Bonamassa's stage was filled with rare amps and immaculate tone, Jack White's was the polar opposite: battered guitars, basic gear, and unapologetic chaos. Joe reportedly saw White's approach as a gimmick. He believed the White Stripes' two-chord anthems mocked decades of musical progress. One insider recalled Joe saying that Jack White was setting guitar playing back 50 years. He couldn't comprehend how the media praised simplicity as innovation. Bonamassa refused interviews where White was mentioned and allegedly told journalists that celebrating Jack White's style was proof that the industry has lost its standards. To Joe, being raw wasn't enough. Mastery mattered more than image. Number 3. Derek Trucks. Number 3 hits close to home. Joe Bonamassa versus Derek Trucks, a feud that, according to insiders, split the blues community from within. Derek Trucks was hailed as a prodigy, joining the Allman Brothers Band at just 20 years old. But to Bonamassa, that praise came too easily. He reportedly resented how Derek achieved instant legendary status without enduring the grind every bluesman was supposed to face. Joe once said that real blues comes from struggle, not privilege. Behind closed doors, Bonamassa allegedly dismissed Truck's slide guitar skills as flash without feeling. He thought the emotional depth was missing, that critics were fooled by showmanship instead of sincerity. Even session musicians noticed attention. When both were booked for the same festivals, promoters knew to keep them apart. Number 2. Gary Clark Jr. At number 2, we find a feud that wasn't just personal, it was generational. Joe Bonamassa versus Gary Clark Jr., the battle between traditional blues and modern evolution. Sources claim Bonamassa saw Gary as a threat to everything he stood for. Clark's mix of hip-hop, rock, and soul influences felt, to Joe, like contamination of sacred ground. When Clark started winning Grammys and landing headlining spots at major blues festivals, Bonamassa reportedly lost it. He saw the industry's support for Clark as betrayal, proof that authentic blues was being replaced with a watered-down hybrid. Joe allegedly told promoters that placing Clark on the same billing as true blues legends was an insult to the genre's history. He even threatened to walk off shows if Clark's name appeared beside his. To Joe, blues wasn't supposed to change. It was supposed to be protected. Number 1. Kenny Wayne Shepherd. And finally, at number 1, the rivalry that defined Joe Bonamassa's career. His feud with Kenny Wayne Shepherd wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal. In the 1990s, the two were rising stars of the blues revival. At first, they were allies, even friends. But as Kenny's albums exploded in mainstream success, things soured fast. Insiders revealed that Joe saw Kenny's radio-friendly sound as blues for suburban kids. He accused him of diluting the genre for sales, while Joe himself stuck to the purist path. As the 2000s rolled on, Shepherd's commercial victories continued, and Bonamassa's resentment grew. He reportedly told close friends that marketing beat musicianship. Tour managers later confirmed that when the two had to perform on the same tours, they required separate hotels, buses, and backstage areas. Their rivalry became legendary, the symbol of two paths in blues: purity versus popularity.
Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon.